my yarny friends, I'm Sara Sach. Welcome back to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to show you how to make our November turkey coffee cup magnet and applique. Isn't that just the cutest thing? I am so in love with how that turned out. But just to recap, what we're doing is we made the home pillow and wall hanging. And remember, that's a free pattern on Ravelry. And then we did a coffee cup each month. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, and November. So we have this one and then one more for December, and we'll have 12 coffee cup magnets and appliques. All right. Now, all of the cups, you can find the pattern free on my blog, as well as the pattern and the graph for the home pillow or wall hanging. But you can also find all of these patterns on Ravelry, and they are all a free Ravelry download. And again, I'll put those links underneath this video so you can go and get those. All right. But today we're going to be making the turkey coffee cup magnet. Isn't that so cute? And remember, I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. All right, so we're going to be making our turkey coffee cup magnet. It's just so cute. I keep wanting to giggle. We're going to be using acrylic yarn. Now you can use cotton yarn. These patterns that I've made for these magnets and appliques can be any medium weight number 4 yarn that you want to work with. Now we're going to be using a beige, and I believe this is a Super Saver. I don't know. These are all yarns I had on hand. Okay, we're going to use beige. It's a little darker than a beige. It's almost like a light tan. Okay, and you're going to need about half of an ounce for the main one, and then all the others are just a small amount. Like we need white for the eyes, yellow for the beak, we need red for the wattle, we need some black. I actually put blue eyes on this one, but I'm going to put black on the one that we're making. And then for this right here that represents the feathers, I'm just using a piece of variegated yarn that I just had on hand in my stash. If you don't have a variegated, you can use orange or yellow, or you could do one row of like a darker brown, another row of red, whatever you want to do for that portion. You don't have to do the colors that I'm doing. You can even make this a pink and blue one or a yellow and purple. It's totally up to you. But you just need a small amount of all your small yarns for all the different pieces, and then about a half ounce, if even that, of your main color you're going to make your cup out of. All right, we're going to be stitching today with our H hook, which is a 5mm crochet hook. You need scissors, and you need a needle for weaving in and sewing on pieces. And you're going to need some magnets. And again, these are ones that I purchased at Dollar Tree. They're very strong. These little circles. And I love using them. I got a package that had 12 in it, and at the time it was $1.25. I don't know what they are at Dollar Tree now because they have raised some of their prices. But if you don't have a lot of money, you don't want to go buy them, save your magnets off your notepads and things that are on your refrigerator. Some of those ads come with magnets on the back for you to stick on your refrigerator. Well, sometimes I just throw the ads away and keep the magnets. All right, and then this is a knit stitch holder, and I use these for when I put this on the pillow and I want to be able to remove it. I put this through here and through here behind, and then you can't see it. And these are just like I said, they're for holding your stitches when you want to use your knitting needle. You slide your stitches on here and just close it, and then you can pick it back up later. It's just holds your stitches. It's not really even a big safety pin, but you could use a big safety pin. A lot of people have used Velcro. I just didn't want to. I bought Velcro, but I just didn't want to because Velcro can fray the yarn a little bit. Okay, and then the last thing you need is sticky felt. Okay, and I buy it in sheets like this, 99 cents. They were $1.29, but the last few that I bought were back to 99 cents. And I have found these at Hobby Lobby. I used to get them at Joann's and Michael's also. And I used to be able to find them at Walmart, but I can't find them there anymore. And so the only place I've been able to find them is Hobby Lobby. And they're called Peel and Stick Felt, and they work great because we can cut this out and just peel the back off and stick it onto the back of our magnet. Okay? Alrighty. Now, you don't have to use the sticky felt, but it just makes them a lot more sturdy for when you're hanging them on the refrigerator or on a pillow or your wall hanging. It just makes the back of the coffee cups a lot more sturdy. And I have never had any trouble with the sticky felt coming off the backs of them. All right? All right, so let's gather up our stuff and we'll get started. I forgot to mention that you are going to need some sort of glue to glue your magnet onto the back of your cup. And I just use this. I got this at Walmart. It's called the Super Bonder Cool Shot. It uses the thin glue sticks, but you can also use this. This is called fabric glue. This works good. You can also use E6000 or some other type of glue if you prefer. I have also seen magnets that have peel and stick on the back, but they're a little bit thinner than this. But you need to have some sort of way to attaching your magnet onto the back of your magnet. All right, so let's make our little coffee cup first, and then we'll make all of the pieces. So I've got my beige color that I'm using for my cup. Of course, use any color that you want to. We're going to start with our slip knot, and we're going to chain 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I do recommend that you don't chain this beginning chain too tight. All right. Now we're going to go in the second chain from the hook and stitch a single crochet, and then we'll stitch 1 single crochet in each of those chains working across. Alrighty, here's my last chain. Stitch a single crochet in it and chain 1. So for row 1, we have 9 single crochets, chain 1. All right, let's do row 2. So we chained 1. We're going to turn our work. Our chain 1 does not count as a stitch, and so we'll go right in that first single crochet and just stitch 1 single crochet in each of those 9 single crochets. Alrighty, one more, and chain 1. All right, so for row 2, we have 9 single crochets. So we have 9 single crochets, we chained 1 and turn. And so now what we're going to do for 7 more rows is just repeat row 2. And again, that's 1 single crochet in each of our single crochets across. All right, and so we're going to repeat row 2 for 7 more rows. I repeated that for 7 more rows, so that gives us 9 rows. 2, 4, 6, 8, and one more down here is 9. All right, so now we're going to do the trim going around our coffee cup, and then we're going to do the coffee cup handle. All right, so we've chained 1. We're going to turn working this way, and we're going to evenly single crochet down the side. And again, when working the side, you want to try to go in those sides of the stitches and not the holes if possible. All right. This will just give you a much neater appearance without, a bunch of holes in the sides. There we go. All right, so now we're to the corner. Move that string out of the way where we started, and we'll stitch single crochet, chain 1, and single crochet in that corner. And now we're just going to go straight across the bottom, across those chains. And of course that's our beginning chain where we started, and we're basically just stitching in the other side of the chain. And this is why we didn't want you to stitch that beginning chain too tightly, because we don't want it to pucker in. We want it to be nice and flat for the bottom of our coffee cup. All right, so we're at the corner, so I'm going to chain 1, single crochet in that same spot, and now we're just going to single crochet up the side just like we did the other side. There we go. Oops, it's on my yarn. Alrighty. Alright, now we're just going to join to that first one, but we're going to chain 1 first, and then we're going to join to that first single crochet. Whoops. There we go. And chain 1. So now we've done the trim down the side, across the bottom, and up the top. And of course that's just our tail of yarn where we started, and we'll weave that in later. But this is how your cup should look at this point. So now we're ready to put the handle of our cup on. All right, so we've chained 1. We're going to turn our work. We're going to go in that first single crochet and slip stitch. Then we'll slip stitch in the next 2. And now we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to skip the next 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and slip stitch in the next. And chain 1 and turn. And make sure that your handle is in the center of the side of your cup, because sometimes when we're doing stitching up the side with our single crochets, we may have an extra stitch or 2, and so our handle might be off. All right, so now that we've got our handle, it's nice and centered, we're going to go in this chain 6 and stitch 7 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then we'll just join to that first single crochet there above that handle and clip that off. And so now we have the handle. I'm going to go ahead and take a couple minutes and weave in these ends, but I'm going to put them in the back for now so you can see the front. This is our coffee mug. Super cute. And now we're going to make all the extra pieces, the eyes and the beak and the little wattle, and of course we're going to do this portion up here next. All right, I'm going to weave these ends in. Now we're going to do what I'm calling the turkey feathers, which is this portion up here where we have 2 colors to represent those turkey feathers. Okay, or not 2 feathers, 2 rows. All right, so I'm going to bring in my variegated that I just cut off a long piece. And we are going to be working in the front post. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in the first front post, and it's a snug one there. Join our yarn in. All right, and now we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. I thought we were chaining 4. We're chaining 3. And we're going to be stitching only in the front loops across. So you can see there's 2 sets of loops. There's back loops and front loops. Because we're going to be doing 2 rows, the first row will be in the front loops, the second row will be in the back loops. Okay? So we're going to skip the next. We're going to slip stitch in the next stitch and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Skip the next, slip stitch in the next front loop. 1, 2, 3. Skip the next, slip stitch in the next front loop. 1, oops, get back in there. 2, 3, my yarn out of the way. Skip the next, slip stitch in the next, and 1, 2, 3. All right, so that's what the first row looks like. Now we're going to turn our work, and it becomes the front loops on this side because we're completely turning, but it is the back loops, okay? And so we've chained 3, and we want to go to the one that's the opposite of the one we skipped, okay? 1, 2, 3. Then we'll skip the next one. 1, 2, 3. Skip the next one. Slip stitch in the next. 1, oops, 2, 3. It wants to slide right off my hook today. 1, 2, 3. Skip that, and that brings us right back where we started. All right, I'm going to go ahead and cut my yarn. Oh, I was cutting that close, wasn't I? That's the last of my yarn on that one. All right, so let's go ahead and tie this off. This is the back and this is the front. And by doing that, the way that we did that, it gives it a double decker or double layered look. And by making sure that they're in the opposites on the back, it just makes it look pretty. And I really like how it turned out. I know that green's a little bit dark there, but you can see on this side the other colors. All right, so now I need to take my needle and weave these ends in. And one good thing about adding that sticky back is that we're going to be weaving everything in because we've got a lot of things to add. And the sticky back that we're going to put on is going to cover all of that. All right, I'm going to weave these in and then we're going to do the eyes. I made one of the eyes. I added the French knot and then I attached it to our magnet. And so I'm going to show you how to make it and put it on. All right, so we're going to start with a slip knot. We're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to stitch 7 double crochets in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. All right, and so now we're going to join to that chain 3 with a slip stitch. We're going to cut our yarn, but we're going to leave ourselves a good amount of yarn, about 12 inches, for sewing it onto our turkey. All right, so I'm going to tie this off. Now, doing it this way, you may have a little hole in the center. All right, this is the front, so we're going to turn it over here to the back. And now we're going to close up that hole. So I put it on my needle, and we're just going to go around there. Sometimes a hole is left there, sometimes it's not. But you're going to weave the end in anyway, right? So we'll just go ahead and make sure that hole is nice and tightly closed. I got a tickle earlier in my throat. All right, so that's nice and weaved in. All right, so before we sew it onto our turkey, we want to add the French knot, and I'm using black. The first one I did blue. All right, so we'll get our needle on here, and this is way more yarn than I need, so I'm going to cut off part of it. All right, so here's our yarn. We're going to come right up into the center of our eye. we're going to leave a little tail because we're going to tie that so that French knot doesn't come undone. All right, so now we're going to put 3 wraps on our needle. 1, 2, 3. We're going to go next to it, not right down the same hole, but next to it, and make sure you go through some fibers of the yarn. Okay? Gently pull it through, but don't pull the knot through to the other side, okay? All right. Now we'll just turn this over, and we'll tie that so that French knot doesn't come out. Now, if you want to put some different eyes, like maybe safety eyes or something, although safety eyes with the back wouldn't fit good because it would be too tall. But there are other sticky eyes and other things you can do if you prefer to do that for your eyes. I just like doing it this way. I think it's super fun. All right, let's sew this eye on. All right, now I've already got one on, and I want them to look a little bit silly. I think I'll put them a little bit closer than I did the other one, just for fun. All right, it's really super easy. I just use my thumb and hold it on, and we're going to stitch around this edge. And you can make your French knots over to the sides. You can, you know, use different colored French knots. The eyes really just give this project just so much fun, you know. Like these look like they're looking to the side. And you can adjust that before you put it on. Make sure you've got that black dot where you want it. This turkey's giving me the stink eye because he knows I like turkey for Thanksgiving. Oh goodness, I like turkey any time of year. I always buy a couple when they're on sale and put them in my freezer. Or maybe even just the turkey breast sometimes that they have. Put it in your crock pot when you're busy, and you've got a great meal. All right, now I'm hungry for turkey. All right, so what I usually do is I just keep going around until I'm happy that that's going to stay put. And also when I run out of yarn. All right, and it does kind of help fill in the outside of the eye a little bit. All righty, so once it's on there securely, I love how these eyes turned out. Okay, we just come in the back and we'll just weave this in. And again, remember, you want to try to get it flat, but even if your threads are like this, you can see them, it's okay because we're going to put that sticky back felt on the back. All right, so now our turkey has some eyes. You can pooch them up like this, or you can just leave them flat. So cute. Now we're going to add the beak next because we're going to do the wattle last because we want to be able to sort of stick it up in by the eye and the beak there and have it just sort of hang. Okay, so we're going to do the beak next, and the beak is embroidered on. So when you first come up, you want to make sure that you go through stitches and not a hole. And I've got way too much yarn on here. I'm going to cut some of this off. There we go. All right, so then I'm going to come over here. Because the first thing I'm going to do is just make the basic triangle of the beak. And the size of the beak is totally up to you. I like a nice size beak. I think it makes them look cuter. All right, so then I'll come down there. And then I'll come back here where my point of my beak is. And then I'll go right up in there where I put the other point. Okay, so now I've got my shape. And now we're just going to fill it in. And of course, the amount of stitches you put on here is totally up to you. I like it to be nice and thick. And so I just keep going until I feel like it's all filled in. And if you look at it and say, I want that beak to be longer, you can always make it longer. And I'll show you how in just a second. Just want to make sure it's nice and filled in. All right. If you look at that and you think, well, I think it'd be cuter if the beak was just a little bit longer. It's really easy. You just go back up here where you were, and you just make another line down the side. And I usually do this anyway because I think it gives it, you know, kind of a better finish, I guess you would say. All right. And then I'll look at it and see if there's any place else I think it just might need a little bit more. And I'm actually going to I'm going to do it up here. I want it to be a little closer to the eye up here. There we go. All right, and I'm just going to do that one right in there, just to kind of fill that in a little better. Oh, that looks much better. All right, so now my turkey beak is complete. And I've stitched over this one, and so I'm just going to come under here and stitch across. When you're doing this and you're doing all your weave-ins, be careful not to go through to the front also, because you don't want like a yellow thread sticking out over here or a black one or something, white one over here. You don't want those threads to show through. All right, so now our turkey has a beak. All right, time to make the waddle. We're going to leave a little bit of yarn because we're going to tie that to the back. Make our slip knot. We're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we'll slip stitch in the second chain and in each of those chains, which will be 4 slip stitches. All right, now we're going to cut our yarn. Again, leave a little bit so we can attach it and tie a knot to the back. All right, so we'll tie off, and there's your waddle. All right, I'm just going to use my crochet hook because I want to go right up here by that eye and pull that in. See how it kind of sticks like right under that eye? And this one we're going to come over here. You don't want to put them through the same hole because it might the knot might come through. Okay? And just make sure it's tucked up under that eye. All right? And then back here, we'll just make that knot. Let's see how it looks. I just love it so much. Here's the other one. So cute. Okay, now we need to put the back on. I have already cut out a piece of my sticky felt, and what I do is I just draw around it and then I cut in closer so the edges don't show, okay? And then you just take the back off and stick it on. Now you want to make sure, I almost forgot, we need to come down just a little bit so that we have room to pin this on if we're going to put it onto our hanger, okay? I always push on it real good, but I have never had any of these ever come off, and I love that. All right, so here's my magnet. I've got my glue gun. I got a glue stick. Put a big old nice glob on there. And I've showed you before, I like a big glob because I want to be able to push this down right there in the middle and have that glue kind of come up on the sides. I'm going to burn my fingers. I'm going to push it with my hook. All right, so now that needs to dry, but this one is ready to go on my refrigerator, and then this one I'll put on my pillow or my hanger. So I have 2 turkeys, one with blue eyes and one with black eyes, and I just love them both. They're so cute and fun to make. You can do the eyes different if you want to, and this little bit of what I'm calling tail feathers is just so cute. And I love how these turned out. Now you'll notice this one is shorter than this one. That's because when I made this one, I decided I wanted to add an extra row. And but if you want it to be shorter, just add one less row when you're doing the base of the cup. All right? But I wanted it to have just a little bit more room. I liked the way it fit better on the pillow. Let me show you. See how this one's just a little bit short? And this one covers it up nice and pretty. All right. So that is our November Turkey Cup of the Month.